And welcome back to the Full Advisor Coaching Podcast with your host, Kristin Harrod. Kristin, how are you?
I'm good, Bill. Good to see you.
It's good to see you. I always enjoy getting together to do these podcasts with you, and I'm really interested in this one today because lots of people talk about branding, and typically they talk about branding from a corporate perspective. And today you're coming at that topic from the same topic, but with a slightly different sort of approach to it. Why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. You know what I see frequently? I mean, when people ask me about branding, you know, there's a lot around corporate brands, of course. But what I want to talk about today is personal brand. And what do I mean there? That comes up a lot. We think about it in terms of social media and personal brand. But essentially, if you think about it like this, suppose you meet someone or a prospect is referred over to your firm. The first thing they do is they're going to Google that advisor that they've been connected with. Mm-hmm. Right? So they're not going to necessarily Google the firm. They're going to say, oh, someone referred me to Bill. I will Google Bill.
Makes sense.
Because I want to make sure he's legit. And the question is, what do they see there? Is it like an outdated headshot? I know there's compliance-approved bios that sound like everyone else's. So you read them and they're like 2 paragraphs long. And they talk about your education and your role, and they're quite a yawn. Mm-hmm. And then maybe they see your LinkedIn profile, because it's probably coming up high in search, that you haven't updated since before the pandemic. So it's like, oh, right, it's been 6-7 years since you even looked at that. And that I'm doing a lot of catch up with advisors on that right now. But the big thing is this is a first impression, and it's a missed opportunity because it is something that you can use to really help you, but you have to focus on it. And when we're talking about what this means, that is the personal brand of firm leaders and the personal brand of their advisors. This way, all the marketing efforts you're doing also supports business development, and the two can go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. We know that if someone looks online or they're not seeing something compelling when they find you, you lose momentum and you haven't even had the first conversation yet.
Right.
Hey there, it's Kristin. Quick break. If you're enjoying the show and you want more, head on over to fulladvisorcoaching.com/resources. You can download the toolkits that I have there and join the free insider community. You'll be the first to hear about new trainings, fresh podcast episodes, and I share with you real-world strategies that I see working for advisors right now. That's fulladvisorcoaching.com/resources. Go sign up. It's completely free. And now, back to the show.
I was laughing when they say, you know, you go to your LinkedIn page, you see an old, outdated photograph, because I only recently updated mine, and the one that was there had to have been like 6 or 7 years old. I'm like, oh,
yes,
man.
I have a few floating. I have an old one that pops up on some app somewhere, and I can't figure out how to change it. And I'm like, all right, that's probably 10 years old at least.
Oh, gosh.
I'm actually getting a new one this week because I want to have some variety. I have a pretty fresh one, but I was like, I'd love some variety. I'm always looking at the same picture of myself.
Yep.
Anyway, we digress. So we'll get into headshot and things like that, but it's really about the personal brand, and really today we want to talk about how can you really pump up the personal brands of yourself or of the advisors on your team, and how can you support that? And I just want to give a little context on kind of, you know, why it matters, and where kind of a little like flashback in history here on company versus personal brand.
Okay.
Because we know most firms grow from what?
Probably referral.
Yeah, referrals. And that's still true today. Yeah. It's always been that way, and it's still true to probably continue that way because it's a very high-touch personal service. But the way they used to come in, client referrals used to come in, you know, so picture like no internet really. People, you know, and we'll say mostly men out networking, playing some golf, really just doing sales calls, right? Like the traditional rainmaker cold calls, lots of smiling and dialing. And, that's how people were trained, right? To just keep calling and calling, going out to the lunches with COIs. And we just covered that in a recent episode too, about how much time you can spend there. But that's how it was. You'd have expensive dinner seminars with bad chicken, where you can bring a friend. You just kind of pass business cards around, made it really easy for someone to then say, oh, I have a name, I will give it to you. And everything was done with phone calls and asking clients for names and stuff. And really what made you legitimate was the company brand you were with, right? Because people would be like, oh, yes, I've seen ads for Morgan Stanley or a Goldman Sachs or maybe a Smith Barney at whatever the times were then.
Harkening back to a long time ago there.
Yes. So it was a different, even an insurance company, right? But it was different. So, obviously bringing the internet, bringing social media, change people. And you've heard me talk about this before, just consumers have changed as well, right? They're spending every day on social media. And that's not to say we have to be marketing on social media, but they are on social media, right?
Yep.
They're looking for influencers and different kinds of influencers, not necessarily the traditional ones. Again, flashing back to that episode, I'm going to say 51 on referral partners. People don't, they're very skeptical. They want to ease in. The referral, when you're out there and about there looking for someone who understands them, who can make a connection with them. We start to see vulnerability and authenticity, winning out over the sort of the old way of doing things. And this brought to rise the personal brand, right? Because then people are connecting with an individual. They're not having these dialogues the same way with, a Chase or a Mass Mutual. It's, who is the actual person, the representative, the human behind it? And so,
and I find that really ironic. I just have to say in this because the conversation's dominated by how AI is going to change everything and AI is going to do this and you're not going to need a person to do that because AI will do that. Yet when it comes to fundamental relationships, the thing that we really want to find is a sort of human-to-human connection. We want to feel like, I know that. I just read about that advisor. That advisor sounds like we could have a connection. We could find some common ground. It might be interesting to connect with, which I think is what a lot of people fundamentally decide they're going to develop a relationship on.
Right. And so it is truly about that, which is why personal branding is so important. And in the context of the corporate brand. So yes, there is the corporate brand that gives you legitimacy and solitude and that umbrella, even independence, right? There's no question the firms that have, the millions of dollars to throw into advertising can definitely initially stand out, but it's the individual under these RAAs or even not, just any individual advisor who can really stand out when they're, out there. They have a warm presence, a welcoming presence, and it makes for that referral handoff or that warm introduction to actually be warm as you want. And this is something where firm leaders can help advisors. And I know a lot of people are like, that's up to them. They can take care of it. But they don't have to wait for each advisor to figure out what to do. What I want to talk about today is kind of setting some standards and providing resources to make it really easy for advisors to optimize their profiles, to bring to life some of their personal brand. And it doesn't mean they all have to be out there being social media influencers. Not at all. That's not what we're talking about. So let's get into what we mean by kind of like connecting with the human or the personal brand. Because as you even said there, Bill, people are hiring people,
right.
They don't want to necessarily hire robots and they don't want to hire corporation. They don't want to hire an entity. They're looking for a human.
Correct.
So if we can start thinking about, everyone has their corporate bio on their website. And I will say the number 2 visited page on any website, people go to the homepage, then they go to the about page because they want to see the people.
Yeah.
Right. So what if we thought about the corporate bio as being a personal story instead of a corporate bio, right? So what if I read that and sure, I got a glimpse at your credentials. It's important to reinforce that. I know what you do at the firm. There's a sense of, hey, this person knows what they're talking about.
Sure.
But what if we gave more context around what matters to this person? Why are they even in this work? What inspires them? What is their why? What is their vision, right? What do they care about? Even outside the office, what makes them a human? I think the why story is really important. And it can be delivered in many different ways, whether through like a question and answer. It could be written in the first person. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. But if you as a firm leader can help guide advisors to and encourage them to articulate their why story, I think it makes a really big difference in terms of like number one thing you can do to make your advisors stand out.
Yeah.
Is to get them to be able to articulate, why do I do what I do? Because ultimately that's what consumers or clients want to know, right?
Yes.
And then you can take that why story and put it in there. It can be on the bio and the website. The advisor can put it on their LinkedIn site. The advisor feels very confident to speak in prospect meetings around it and talk about it when they introduce themselves, when they're talking with clients. It comes up across the board. So I think it makes a huge difference.
Well, I tell you, I agree with you just from the other side of the equation, as in a consumer of financial advice, right? But I'm wondering to what degree financial advisors might be a little uncomfortable because they're used to the corporate bio that, everybody's pretty much the same as you talked about earlier. And now they got to venture into the whys and who they are. And I think that this leadership component that you're talking about is so important because that's what's going to make this happen.
Right. I think that makes a really big difference. And if we do start thinking about what separates firms, individual advisors or independent financial advice that is more, that is more in the service ultimately of the clients. And not to say not other advisors who are with broker dealers or hybrids aren't in service of the others, but I'm saying the independent model to stand out has to really tap into what makes it unique, right? Yeah. And so these individual advisors can bring that to the forefront. And I think it makes just a really, it's just so much more friendly. I mean, imagine if you're reading, Bill provides comprehensive wealth management solutions for high net worth individuals.
Woo-hoo.
Okay.
There's
Great.
a lot of me.
So does everybody else. That's what everyone does.
Exactly.
So I think it's really helpful if a leader can challenge advisors to rewrite their bios in language that your neighbor would understand. Right? So, and this could be a great use of AI. How we talk about don't rely on AI to do your writing for you. This is a place where you can prompt a Claude or Gemini or a chat and say, I'd like to write my bio in language that would be readable to my next door neighbor. Right. And then provide your corporate bio and say, please ask me questions so that I can provide input and we can rewrite this. I think that would be really helpful and an interesting exercise for everyone to do for their own company bio and then their LinkedIn bio as well.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's a great idea.
But we did talk a little bit about headshots, right?
Yeah.
And we remember if we went back to, we did that LinkedIn episode and a while back about this, but you have to have a professional photo. And I will say most advisor websites have professional photos,
Oh, yeah.
They look good. They look nice. And they have like the single headshot and you're like, oh, there's so-and-so in a tie and she looks nice in her blazer.
Yeah.
And, what if we had things like lifestyle photos or office candid shots. I love seeing those, like people talking over the coffee machine, like to give you a sense of the vibe of the energy of the room, you know. Show one of your advisors out involved in the community. I worked with a firm up in the Northeast who did a lot of community work. And they had a whole section on their website where you could see the individual advisors out in the community, you know, contributing, participating in the, you know, events that mattered to them. Yes. And they called it out in the bios. It made a big difference.
You know, you actually did an episode on this quite some time ago, because I'm trying to remember. I think didn't Derek talk about the importance of connecting with the community and
Derek Kinney, way back.
Kinney,
yes, you're right. Yeah. Yes, he did talk about that. And again, that was part of his brand, right? Of what he did, his personal brand. And it came from who he is and his why, right?
Right.
So it's not like we're asking you to make things up. We're saying bring something that's authentic to you and put it out there. And if we can make these pages like on the website, which if we're getting fundamentally into, what do you mean photos here and there? We're talking about like on your profile page. I have another firm where we have the professional photo and then it flips to a personal photo. That's pretty popular. Okay. Or people do the rollover and it switches to something more fun. Some people include pictures of their family. Someone has another person coaching a soccer team. And so, hey, now when a prospect sees that and they're like, oh, I see this photo, you know, okay, they're a professional. Oh, they have these credentials and they went to school here, but let me read their story about why they do this. And then in his spare time, Bill likes to coach youth soccer and, you know, go hunting.
Right.
I don't know. So then you're like, wow, okay, this is exciting. It seems obvious, but I've read so many bios that I'm so bored by that third line. It's crazy.
We all have.
Yes. Yeah. And now before, as you may imagine, the question is, should we do video? Maybe we should do video bios. And I will tell you, I have one of my fractional CMO clients. We did this. We hired a videographer. They came in, and I'm sure I've talked about this too, where we did 60 to 90 seconds of kind of meet your advisor videos.
Ooh.
And we started with, you know, kind of like, what's your role? And people talked about what they liked about working at the firm. So it kind of painted that picture, and then what they really love about their job. And then we did this sort of speed round at the end where it'd be like, you know, do you like to go to Florida, you know, beach or mountains, you know, and like rock and roll or classical. And like we'd throw out these, you know, competing things and people would expand on what meant, like dog or cat, you know, coffee or tea. And we just did these speed rounds, and we did them for everyone in the firm. And it was a great way to be able to bring to life the personalities of the people. And we sent those out. We did them over the summer and sent one out, posted one out a week on social media. And then I sent an email out to the clients and prospects. And I remember getting, we got a reply back that said from one of the clients who said, oh my goodness, I never knew that Susan, you know, sang in the choir. That was so interesting. Or, wow, I've worked with Tim my entire relationship with you, and I had no idea he liked X, Y, or Z. Or, wow, I've only had emails from these people, and now I know who they are, and I can put a face to the name. And it is something now that we run as a campaign, like about every 6 months, because it is so well liked, and people are like, I watched every single one.
I believe that. I totally believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it can be a bit of, a bit of a heavy lift. And I do recommend, if you just, you know, as a leader, you say, okay, this is something we're going to do. Advisors can get a little worried about it. I hired a very professional videographer on Upwork, pretty reasonable price. He came to the office. You can find local people, and set up a nice professional studio in the office. And everyone came in one at a time, and they were, we let them settle in and kind of relax, and I'd warm them up with questions and stuff. But it was really easy for them to be themselves and answer questions. And I was like, just talk to me like you're having any kind of conversation. And it was really super powerful. And everyone on the team got excited about it. And now each person on the team has this on their webpage. Besides their professional stuff, there's also an outside of the office section, and then this highlight video. Really powerful.
Wow, and it seems like such a great way to help people overcome what a lot of people probably feel like, oh, this is really, I'm uncomfortable with this. What are we doing? I don't like doing this personal branding thing.
You wouldn't believe, but a little bit of production edit here and there, an intro, an outro, some text, a little music, and a couple smiles and laughs mixed in, and some edits. Everyone looks good.
Yeah, I believe
It's great.
I believe it.
All right. I think we should, that's obviously the website. So making sure the bios on the website are solid, and each person's brand is, reinforcing who they are and what they contribute. But we know that for people to find you, they're going to be looking online, and we're talking a professional service here, so they're going to go to LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've done a lot of content on LinkedIn. We had episode 14 and 15 where we broke into like how to conquer LinkedIn.
Yes.
And it was all about, looking at different ways to use LinkedIn. And then we did a more recent episode, 47, with Derek Pollard. And he got into more about AI and how, when and how to use AI to help you with your profile, and then how to write your profile so AI can find it. So a little bit of that nuance, which was helpful.
And those episodes were very popular too, as I recall.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say that I think the early ones were some of my most highly traction, because people are out there, right? LinkedIn's the most valuable personal branding asset for an advisor without question, outside of the company page, right? Just because more people are going to likely see you on LinkedIn than anyone else. And it's a third party validation to say, let me make sure these people are legitimate.
Yes.
So, the basics, we're not going to cover a lot of this because we did in that earlier episode, which we'll have links in the show notes, but obviously professional headshot that's current. In that little headline under your photo, don't just say I'm a financial advisor at XYZ Wealth. Tell us something about yourself. Tell us something interesting that we don't see in the summary below. And then you have that summary section that says about, where you can tell a story. And that's really, really important. Like, tell your personal story there. You've gotten into what your why is. Put your why in there. That makes a big difference. Let's see, what else can you do? I think what people forget about, and I'm guilty here too, is to connect proactively with your clients, with people you've met with COIs. Mm-hmm. You can get out there. It's interesting because now I used to overlook this, and then I was like, well, I've actually had a conversation with that person, not just random connection invite. Let me reach out to them. Now, when I have a meeting with someone, I send the connection invite almost immediately following the meeting, assuming that I want to stay connected with them, unless it was a big miss. But
yeah, well, it's funny. I frequently will proactively connect with people on the internet if I know that I'm going to have a meeting, or I know that I'm on occasion when I'm getting together with them, because it eliminates the need for me to say, oh, by the way, this is who I am.
Right. And you can see, you can sort of warm it. I think you're right. Like, it warms up the conversation ahead of time because they can see and look, and you can have that little,
I can see something about them, so I can ask them some questions and say, oh, I noticed in your LinkedIn this, I noticed this, but tell me a little more about that. It's just a nice way it's a conversation starter, without it being an awkward, weird, where am I going to find a common ground thing to talk to this person about, right?
Yeah, and I think that's interesting for business development, obviously sometimes we're thinking, how are we going to start a conversation, or where can we possibly begin? I had a call with someone. Oh no, I was meeting with a prospective client, and just at the last minute, I looked at his LinkedIn bio before our meeting, and it said he was like the captain of his collegiate swim team, which I swam in college as well.
Right.
And we happened to be in the same league. Like,
boom. Well, that's great.
He's younger than I am though, but it was immediately I was like, oh, well, I'm going to just ask him about that. That's so easy, because I'd be like, which is your favorite pool? What do you think about this one? And it was like so easy to have that conversation, because I literally glanced down and scrolled the whole way down and was like, oh, look at that. It was way down on the profile.
Right, of course,
he had a ton of experience. And then I was very excited, because I was like, it took all the stress out of my meeting, because I knew I had a go-to if I needed it, which I ended up not mentioning it till the end of the meeting, but I knew I had it there, and it made me feel at ease.
Yes. And it's real. It's a real connection.
I was genuinely curious, because we were very close. We didn't quite overlap, but I was like, oh my goodness, surely blah, blah, X, Y, and Z pool. What a dungeon, It was fun. Don't let me get down the swimming track with you, Bill. You and I can talk about that a lot. Okay. So we have the profile set up. That's strong for personal brand, because even if they never share content or post content, people are going to look them up. But they should be sharing some content. They should be putting a polish. When you have a polish profile, there's usually some posts that are recent. People still see content pieces that you have on your profile. They'll see what you've posted. So as a firm leader, you can make it easy for advisors to be able to share content that you've created for the firm. And I'm going to do the whole next episode on that, so we won't spend time on that today.
Okay.
But know that for everyone listening, as your firm is publishing and sharing content, LinkedIn becomes a great way for you to share that. Even if you don't have a lot of following, or the views are like 1 or 2, I wouldn't worry about it, because it's more about when people come and look at your profile, they see the type of content that you have shared, and they'll see what is relevant. So yes, it's great if you have both, where a lot of people are seeing it and they see it as part of your profile, but you can pin different content to your highlighted section on your LinkedIn, and that'll help people who are looking for that.
Very cool. What else can they do?
We've got a lot.
I know that that's we're not going to get into the next episode. So people, if you're listening
not
to
yet,
this,
but we'll get it. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that.
You will want to be there for that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we talked about how important the company profiles are. A few things I did want to add in is, one of the questions that comes up is like, what if we have different advisors who have different specialties or niches? And that can go all the way back to episode, I'll say 5 with Kristin Luke.
Yeah.
If you don't have a niche and you want one, go back to that one. But that is something where if you have a specialty or a niche or a target audience you enjoy working with, be sure, definitely put that in your bio. That is really helpful. So as people are coming in to read about advisors, they can find one that will understand their issues. Other things, advisors love to have letters after their names. There's a ton of different credentials and designations you can get, all very good. I like to call those out usually kind of in a list on the side or with some logos. But if you're going to put them out there, let the reader know why that matters to them, rather than just list all the alphabet soup of titles. Be like, a certified financial planner, a designation that upholds standards of blank, blank, and blank, right. So that you're talking about the standards, or you're talking about why it matters to the person reading.
Yes.
We talked about, if you're on a board, nonprofit board, or you're doing nonprofit work, that's important to highlight or showcase. And then another area where we will get into more of this in the next episode 55 is if you've authored any content on the website, or you've been out a guest on a podcast, or you have been quoted in the media, all of this can be on your personal profile with links over to the blog or links out to the podcast episode, or embedded, better yet, embedded on the site if you can get that.
Yeah.
That way, people can see, wow, this person really is contributing to the conversation. They have something to add, value to add here. And don't worry if your media mentions aren't the Wall Street Journal, but they're like the, I can't think of a local paper anymore. It's something local nearby.
Yeah, and there are local papers where I am that still are there, that are important and are widely read in the community. And it, doesn't have to be.
I was going to say, we have the San Francisco Chronicle, but that's a bigger paper. But we have the San Francisco Standard and some other ones where you're they're small, but people are still seeking your expertise, and they're more likely to be familiar, your audience will be familiar with them. So links out to any of those mentions there, all important. So if this is something you're a firm leader and you want to kind of upgrade and make your personal brands, shine the spotlight on them, bring them to life, audit your current advisor profiles right now. Pull up every bio page and every LinkedIn profile and take a look at them. Score them honestly, right? Are they outdated? When was the last time they were refreshed? Are they speaking to the customer? Do they talk about do they have a why in them? Is there anything personal? What does it look like? We're not here to criticize, but we're just trying to get here's where we stand. Here's what we want to do. We want to upgrade, and here's how we're going to do that. So you're going to set a standard, right? You're going to show them, what does a good profile look like? What do we want to have on the bio? And I've done this when I work with firms, when I'm the fractional CMO. I'll send out just a questionnaire and ask questions like, what's your favorite place in San Francisco or in city of firm, right?
Yeah.
What would you tell a tourist to do if they visited here? All these what's your favorite sports team? Whatever the criteria is that we decided from the leadership, and ask people to fill it out and talk about, what are your credentials and where'd you go to school and what are you interested in and what do you want us to share on the site. Some people don't want all their family info up there, but most people do. And then provide resources like I said about the videographer or a professional photographer. The same day that we had the videographer in, we brought in a professional photographer and redid everyone's headshots at that firm. So we got everything ready. We had the ring lights, we had the fancy other lights, we had the backdrops and everything. You can get a writer or an editor to help with the bios. Yes, you can use AI as well, but if you want them to be a consistent voice across the firm, then you'd either have to have one person or working with the same chat standards or bring in an editor or a writer, someone who can understand each human and understands brand standards and can pull that together. And then maybe we set up a LinkedIn profile checklist, right? Go in and say, hey, make sure you have this set up. And I find that specifically in the way that, for example, how you explain the firm in your experience section, there's a little blurb there to talk about the firm and what the firm does. That should be consistent across advisors. And what I really want to do, and this gets into a lot of my firms work on the entrepreneurial operating system where they set quarterly rocks. But even if you don't set quarterly rocks, set a goal. So this is a project with a deadline, not just an open-ended. We'd love to have you update because it's truly and I can say from experience for my own, you'll push it off forever because you're like, I do need to update that. Yeah, I should go back and change that. And you don't get to it. So, say by the end of Q2, every advisor will have an updated bio page and LinkedIn profile. Make it a quarterly rock, a goal, give it a deadline, have a team meeting, set some check-ins. Again, it's something then we have to revisit. Maybe every year you revisit as part of the end of the year, because things change, right? People get married, they have more kids, they get another designation, they move up in the firm, they have different interest in target clients. So lots of things change. And I think one of the places it really falls behind is new content gets published, or you have media mentions. Bring those in. Don't lose those. It's really important to keep all of that current. So that's just a few things you can do to get going. But I think that's plenty.
I think that's a lot, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I mean, you've referenced in the course of this episode what you're doing in the next episode. So just so we can tease people a little bit about what will be next, what exactly are you going to get into in a broad teasing kind of way?
So we're going to have, we have episode, this is 53. We'll have 54 where I'm meeting with Hillary Gale, who does copywriting and content writing for advisors. So that's really, we get into some brass tacks things around how to think about content, creating content, which is perfect because then you and I are regrouping for episode 55, and we're going to be talking about how to make sure there's a master content calendar for the firm, and how do we make sure that advisors are getting a voice and that we're able to distribute and use that content so the whole team can benefit. So we got a lot ahead of us. I'm pretty excited about it.
No, it is great. And if you're not a subscriber already, that is the best reason right there to hit the subscribe button, follow, because as a subscriber, you're automatically notified when the next episode comes out. You're not going to miss anything. We'd also like it if you gave it a like as well, because giving a like and personally saying, yeah, this is a great podcast, it means a lot to me, is invaluable. Word of mouth promotion, irreplaceable, as a matter of fact. So hit that follow button if you're not there already, okay? And we will catch you next time. Until then, I'm Bill Tucker. On behalf of Kristin and everybody behind the Full Advisor Coaching Group, thank you for listening. And we do want to remind you that you can go out today and make today a great day. Or not. The choice is yours. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Full Advisor Coaching, the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the follow button so you'll never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can become a part of the Full Advisor community, visit fulladvisorcoaching.com. Remember, stay connected and get notified as soon as brand new episodes release. Click the follow button now. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kristin Harrod or Full Advisor Coaching.